What if I told you that the love stories that captured the world on screen were nothing compared to the tangled webs behind the scenes? In a world ruled by secrets and stardom, a single stolen glance or whispered promise could change the course of history. Tonight, we pull back the velvet curtain to reveal the truth. 13 love triangles were so explosive. They didn't just make headlines. They shattered marriages, ruined friendships, and rewrote the legends of the silver screen. Buckle up, because in old Hollywood, the real heartbreaks were never make-believe. Elizabeth Taylor, Eddie Fisher, and Debbie Reynolds. The world of old Hollywood was no stranger to dramatic love stories, but few were as explosive as the triangle between Elizabeth Taylor, Eddie Fisher, and Debbie Reynolds. Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher had seemed to epitomize the perfect Hollywood couple. They met as teenagers, grew up in the industry together, and by the mid-1950s, they were married with children. Debbie was America's sweetheart, beloved for her roles in films like Singin' in the Rain, while Eddie Fisher was a chart-topping singer whose smooth voice won over countless fans. Their friendship with Elizabeth Taylor and her husband, producer Mike Todd, added another layer to the Hollywood fairy tale. The two couples were inseparable, but tragedy struck in 1958 when Mike Todd died in a plane crash. Eddie, wanting to support the grieving Elizabeth, found himself drawn into her orbit. The loss brought Elizabeth and Eddie together in a way that neither had anticipated. As Eddie spent more time comforting her, a bond deepened into an affair. For Debbie Reynolds, the betrayal cut deeply, not just from her husband, but also from her closest friend. When the news broke, it wasn't just a personal tragedy. It became a national scandal. The press painted Debbie as the jilted innocent and Elizabeth as the homewrecker. For Taylor, this wasn't her first headline-making romance, but the backlash was severe. Eddie Fisher divorced Debbie and quickly married Elizabeth. The media storm was relentless, and even the Vatican weighed in, condemning the relationship. But what the tabloids failed to capture was the sense of confusion and pain all parties endured. Eddie later admitted that, in truth, he had been swept away by Elizabeth's intense grief and charisma, but realized too late that their relationship was built on unstable ground. The marriage between Eddie and Elizabeth didn't last long. They divorced when Elizabeth's passion ignited once more, this time for her Cleopatra co-star Richard Burton. Decades later, Debbie and Elizabeth found forgiveness and rekindled their friendship. But the triangle had already left a lasting impact, shattering the illusion of perfect love and showing the world that, in Hollywood, the brightest smiles could mask the deepest wounds. Humphrey Bogart, Mayo Methot, and Loren Bacall. Humphrey Bogart was already a Hollywood icon by the time he met Loren Bacall, but his private life was marked by turbulence. Married to Mayo Methot, a talented actress known as much for her fiery temper as her wit, Bogart's home life was famously stormy. Their relationship was passionate but toxic, earning them the nickname the Battling Bogarts. Public fights, fueled by alcohol and jealousy, were commonplace, and their marriage teetered on the edge. Enter Loren Bacall. At just 19, Bacall was cast opposite Bogart, then 44, in the film To Have and Have Not. The chemistry between them was instantaneous, both on and off the screen. Behind the scenes, they exchanged love letters, their words filled with yearning and admiration. For Bogart, Bacall was a revelation. Her calm intelligence and youthful charm were a sharp contrast to the chaos of his life with Mayo. Bogart tried to resist the pull of Bacall, knowing full well the pain it would cause. But the connection was undeniable. Despite the 25-year age gap, the couple fell deeply in love. Bogart's decision to leave Mayo was not made lightly. He agonized over the breakup, especially given Mayo's fragile emotional state. However, by 1945, he filed for divorce and soon after married Bacall. Their union was a rare Hollywood success. Bacall and Bogart became a beloved pair, their partnership marked by mutual respect and affection. Yet, for Methot, the divorce marked the end of her career and contributed to her struggles with loneliness and addiction. The love triangle, which began in scandal, left a trail of heartbreak, but also gave Hollywood one of its most enduring love stories. Bogart and Bacall's marriage was filled with warmth and humor, proving that sometimes, out of the ashes of pain, something lasting can emerge. Ingrid Bergman, Roberto Rossellini, and Peter Lindstrom. Ingrid Bergman was the darling of American cinema. Her performances in classics like Casablanca and Gaslight made her a beloved figure worldwide. Married to Dr. Peter Lindstrom, a Swedish neurosurgeon, she seemed to embody the image of grace and family stability. But beneath the surface, Bergman's heart was restless. In the late 1940s, while still married to Lindstrom, Bergman reached out to Italian director Roberto Rossellini, expressing admiration for his films. Their correspondence quickly turned into an invitation for her to star in his movie Stromboli. On set, the connection between them deepened, and soon they began a passionate affair. Their romance was as intense as it was risky. Both were married, and the consequences would be severe. The scandal that erupted when Bergman became pregnant with Rossellini's child shocked the world. American audiences who had adored her now turned on her. She was denounced in the U.S. Senate as a powerful influence for evil. Boycotts and hate mail followed. Bergman left her husband, gave birth in Italy, and married Rossellini. For years, she was essentially exiled from Hollywood. The affair destroyed her marriage to Lindstrom and forever altered her career. Rossellini and Bergman's marriage produced 3 children, including the future actress Isabella Rossellini. But it too would not last. Eventually, Bergman found her way back to Hollywood and reclaimed her place in cinema history. But the price had been steep. The triangle left behind a trail of broken hearts and reminded the world of the risks stars took for love. Clark Gable, Carole Lombard, and Rhea Langham. Clark Gable, often called the King of Hollywood, was the embodiment of rugged masculinity and effortless charm. In the mid-1930s, he was at the height of his career and married to Rhea Langham, a wealthy Texan who was considerably older than him. Their marriage had been one of social convenience and mutual benefit more than passion. Rhea, an independent and cultured woman, was proud to be at Gable's side as his fame rose, yet over time their bond cooled. Gable, for all his fame and success, often found his home life lonely and lacking the warmth he craved. Enter Carole Lombard, a vivacious comedian with a sharp wit and a reputation for living life with infectious joy. Gable and Lombard first met while filming No Man of Her Own in 1932, but sparks didn't immediately fly. Only years later, at a Hollywood party, did their connection ignite. Lombard's irreverent sense of humor, frank speech, and zest for fun delighted Gable, who was used to women swooning at his feet. With Carole, he found an equal, a partner who challenged him, laughed with him, and matched his adventurous spirit. Their growing romance was not lost on Rhea Langham. Rumors swirled through the Hollywood elite, and Rhea found herself in the unenviable position of fighting for a man whose heart was no longer hers. Yet, the Gable-Langham marriage remained intact for several years, due in part to Rhea's refusal to grant a divorce. Studio contracts and public image were everything, and Gable's career could not afford scandal. He and Lombard maintained their relationship quietly, often meeting in secret and relying on close friends to shield them from the press. Finally, in 1939, Gable's divorce was finalized, and he married Lombard in a small, private ceremony. Their marriage was filled with laughter, outdoor adventures on their ranch, and a love so palpable that it seemed to transform Gable into a new man. He credited Carole with teaching him how to relax and truly enjoy life. Their happiness was tragically short-lived. In 1942, while returning from a war bond tour, Carole Lombard's plane crashed. leaving Gable devastated. He never fully recovered from her loss, and their story became one of Hollywood's most touching tales of love, found and lost. Rhea Langham, quietly receding from the public eye, was left to reflect on a marriage overshadowed by a love too powerful to deny. Ava Gardner, Frank Sinatra, and Nancy Barbado Sinatra. Ava Gardner, renowned for her extraordinary beauty and magnetic screen presence, was no stranger to romantic drama. When she crossed paths with Frank Sinatra, he was still married to his first wife, Nancy Barbado Sinatra, the woman who had been by his side since their humble beginnings in New Jersey. Nancy and Frank's marriage was built on years of shared history, resilience during hard times, and the foundation of family, as they raised 3 children together. However, Sinatra's ascent to superstardom was matched by a restless spirit that made their bond increasingly fragile. Sinatra met Gardner on a Hollywood soundstage in the late 1940s. The attraction was immediate and undeniable. Their affair quickly became an open secret in the entertainment world, creating a firestorm of tabloid attention. Nancy, long accustomed to Frank's flings, struggled to contend with the intensity of this new relationship. Gardner's allure was unlike anything Sinatra had ever encountered. He was mesmerized by her independence and honesty. Ava, for her part, was swept up in Sinatra's charm and romantic gestures, but she soon discovered that their union would be anything but easy. The triangle between Frank, Ava, and Nancy tore at the seams of their respective lives. Nancy tried to hold her family together, hoping Frank would return to his senses, but the relationship with Gardner deepened. Under public scrutiny, Sinatra's professional reputation took a hit, and his marriage unraveled. When Nancy finally agreed to divorce, Frank wasted no time, marrying Ava just days after the papers were signed. Frank and Ava's marriage was as passionate as it was volatile. They fought and made up in equal measure, their love fueled by deep emotion, but scarred by jealousy and mistrust. Gardner was often frustrated by Sinatra's neediness, and his career setbacks only intensified the strain. Theirs was a marriage of highs and lows, marked by spectacular public arguments and heartfelt reconciliations. Ultimately, the couple separated after just a few years, though their bond endured in friendship for the rest of their lives. For Nancy Barbado, the end of her marriage to Frank Sinatra was a bittersweet liberation. She remained a respected matriarch, raising their children away from the chaos of Hollywood. The love triangle destroyed her marriage, but also freed each of them to pursue new chapters. Frank and Ava's legendary romance became a symbol of Hollywood's golden age, brilliant, turbulent, and impossible to forget. Laurence Olivier, Vivien Leigh, and Jill Esmond. Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh's partnership was one of the most celebrated and dramatic in the annals of stage and screen. But the road to their union was paved with heartbreak and scandal, beginning with their affair, while both were married to others. Olivier was tied to Jill Esmond, a respected actress in British theatre, while Leigh was married to Herbert Lee Holman. Their initial meeting sparked an immediate connection, one marked by shared artistic ambition and mutual admiration. As their professional collaborations increased, so did their intimacy. Olivier and Leigh found themselves irresistibly drawn to each other, their passion spilling over into every aspect of their lives. Jill Esmond, devoted but ultimately powerless to change her husband's heart, endured the humiliation of public gossip as the couple's affair became increasingly difficult to conceal. Leigh, too, faced criticism, especially as she fought to establish herself in a world dominated by men. The affair continued for years, before both Olivier and Leigh managed to secure divorces. Their subsequent marriage in 1940 was celebrated as a union of two great talents. Yet the shadow of their earlier choices lingered. Jill Esmond, who had married Olivier at a young age, was left to pick up the pieces. Though she returned to the stage and maintained her dignity, her heartbreak was a silent undercurrent to Olivier and Leigh's public triumphs. Olivier and Leigh's relationship was passionate, but also fraught with challenges. Leigh's struggles with mental health cast a long shadow, testing the limits of their love and resilience. Olivier, driven by ambition, sometimes found it difficult to cope with the emotional storms that marked their marriage. Despite these difficulties, the couple created some of the most memorable performances of their generation, both together and individually. Ultimately, their love could not withstand the strains of fame, illness, and personal ambition. They divorced in 1960, but their story, rooted in a love triangle that toppled old lives and created new ones, remains one of the most riveting in old Hollywood history. Jill Esmond, though largely forgotten by the public, played an integral role in a tale of passion, sacrifice, and the often painful price of true love. Marilyn Monroe, Joe DiMaggio, and Arthur Miller. Marilyn Monroe's life was a whirlwind of beauty, talent, and heartache. When she married Joe DiMaggio, one of the most famous athletes in America, the nation watched in fascination. Joe, a hero of the baseball diamond, was captivated by Marilyn's innocence and vulnerability. For a time, it seemed as though they were the perfect pair. The all-American athlete and the girl next door turned silver screen sensation. Yet, beneath the glamorous exterior, their marriage was fraught with tension. DiMaggio was deeply uncomfortable with Monroe's rapidly rising fame and her public persona, which was often based on her allure and charm. The famous subway grate scene from The 7-Year Itch became a turning point. Joe's jealousy boiled over, and their private arguments grew more intense. Marilyn, yearning for acceptance and intellectual companionship, felt increasingly isolated. The marriage lasted only 9 months. After their separation, Monroe met Arthur Miller, an acclaimed playwright known for his intellect and sensitivity. Their union promised a different kind of partnership, one built on conversation, shared ideas, and mutual support. However, Marilyn soon found that even this marriage was not immune to disappointment. Miller's work often drew upon their personal struggles, and Marilyn felt exposed and misunderstood. Throughout these years, Joe DiMaggio remained in the background, a constant presence in Marilyn's tumultuous life. He checked on her, offered comfort during her lowest moments, and, after her death, arranged her funeral and sent roses to her grave for decades. The triangle among Marilyn, Joe, and Arthur was not merely a tale of romance gone awry, but a reflection of the search for connection and the pain of not quite fitting into anyone's world. Both Joe and Arthur Miller struggled to understand Marilyn fully, and she, in turn, sought solace in each man's different kind of love. In the end, the relationships left wounds that never fully healed, serving as a poignant reminder of the heavy toll that stardom, expectation, and longing can take on the heart. Joan Crawford, Franchot Tone, and Barbara Stanwyck. Joan Crawford, a symbol of ambition and tenacity, lived her life in the glare of Hollywood's harsh spotlight. In the 1930s, she fell for Franchot Tone, a talented actor from a privileged background who was as gentle as she was driven. Their relationship began on film sets and blossomed into a romance that seemed destined for happily ever after. Yet, even from the start, their love faced obstacles, namely, Crawford's intense focus on her career and the ever-present undercurrent of Hollywood competition. Barbara Stanwyck, herself a force of nature on the screen, was a close friend of Tone and admired by Crawford for her strength and talent. The dynamics among the trio were layered and often fraught with subtle tension. Stanwyck's close friendship with Tone and the ease with which they related may have fueled Crawford's insecurities. Crawford worked hard to win and keep Tone's affection, but her dedication to her work often kept her away from home. As time passed, Tone became increasingly frustrated by his secondary role in Crawford's life. He longed for a quieter existence, while Crawford was committed to remaining at the pinnacle of her profession. The emotional distance grew, and rumors about Stanwyck's closeness to Tone persisted, though they were never publicly confirmed as lovers. Eventually, the marriage between Crawford and Tone collapsed under the strain. Crawford's heartache was real, and she expressed regret over her inability to balance love and ambition. Tone retreated from the limelight, while Stanwyck's own career soared. The triangle among Crawford, Tone, and Stanwyck may have been less about betrayal and more about missed opportunities and the high price of ambition. In the aftermath, all three continued to work and thrive, but none ever completely escaped the shadows cast by their tangled relationship. Their story is a classic example of the way love, friendship, and personal dreams can collide, leaving everyone changed forever. Lana Turner, Johnny Stompanato, and Stephen Crane. Lana Turner's life was the stuff of Hollywood legend, glamorous, turbulent, and always in the public eye. She had already been married to Stephen Crane, a charming restaurateur, and their marriage produced a daughter, Cheryl. Though their relationship ended in divorce, Crane remained a steadfast figure in Lana's life as the father of her child. It was during one of Lana's many romantic pursuits that she became involved with Johnny Stompanato, a man whose reputation was as dark as it was dangerous. Stompanato's connection to organized crime and his possessive nature soon made him a looming figure in Lana's world. At first, Lana was captivated by his attention and devotion, but the relationship quickly turned volatile. Crane, witnessing the impact Stompanato was having on Lana and Cheryl, tried to intervene, but found himself powerless. Stompanato's jealousy led to frequent, heated arguments. The situation escalated until one night in 1958, after a violent altercation, Lana's teenage daughter Cheryl stabbed Stompanato to protect her mother. The ensuing trial was a media sensation, revealing the depths of dysfunction and fear that had overtaken their home. The love triangle between Lana, Stompanato, and Crane had consequences that reached far beyond heartbreak. Crane became a more active figure in his daughter's life, striving to shield her from further trauma. Lana, though cleared of any wrongdoing, saw her career suffer as a result of the scandal. The tragedy exposed the dangers of unchecked obsession and the vulnerability of those living in the spotlight. For years afterward, Lana tried to rebuild her career and provide a sense of normalcy for Cheryl. The ordeal left scars on all involved, but it also stood as a grim reminder of the destructive power of jealousy and the limits of Hollywood glamour. In the end, this love triangle became one of the most notorious in Hollywood history, not for its passion, but for the heartbreak and chaos it left behind. Richard Burton, Sybil Williams, and Elizabeth Taylor. The meeting of Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor on the set of Cleopatra was the catalyst for one of the most infamous love stories in Hollywood history. At the time, Richard Burton was married to Sybil Williams, a Welsh actress who had supported him through his early struggles and celebrated his rising fame. Elizabeth Taylor, too, was married to singer Eddie Fisher, her own history already tinged with scandal. The chemistry between Taylor and Burton was immediate and impossible to hide. Their romance played out under the gaze of the world's press, with photographers tracking their every move on the Cleopatra set and beyond. The affair led to broken homes and public shaming, including condemnation from religious authorities who criticized the couple for their disregard of conventional morality. Sybil Williams, left in the shadow of two larger-than-life personalities, faced not only the loss of her marriage, but also public humiliation. She later admitted to feeling as though she was competing with a force of nature, one that could not be matched or contained. Burton and Taylor, meanwhile, reveled in the grandness of their love, marrying after their respective divorces were finalized. But the very intensity that drew them together would prove their undoing. Their marriage was filled with extravagant gifts, tempestuous arguments, and a passion that sometimes bordered on self-destruction. They divorced, remarried, and divorced again, each reunion and separation making headlines worldwide. For Sybil, the triangle brought heartbreak, but also the chance to move forward independently. For Burton and Taylor, the relationship defined much of their lives, leaving a legacy as epic as any Hollywood film. Their story is a testament to the consuming nature of love and the collateral damage it can cause. Charlie Chaplin, Paulette Goddard, and Una O'Neill. Charlie Chaplin was a pioneer of silent cinema, a genius whose comedic brilliance shaped the very foundations of Hollywood. But behind the artistry was a man whose personal life often veered into dramatic territory, especially when it came to love. By the late 1930s, Chaplin was in a partnership with Paulette Goddard, a radiant actress whose wit and beauty matched his own energy. Their relationship, filled with creative synergy, brought them together on both the screen and the stage. Films like Modern Times saw the pair's chemistry lighting up movie screens across the world. Yet for all their creative connection, Chaplin's heart would not settle. Paulette, independent and spirited, desired stability and public acknowledgement, something Chaplin, ever the complicated artist, hesitated to provide. Their relationship remained in an ambiguous space, with the world unsure if they were truly married. This uncertainty weighed on Paulette, who wanted more than just the role of muse in Chaplin's ever-changing world. Then, in the early 1940s, Una O'Neill entered Chaplin's life. Una, daughter of renowned playwright Eugene O'Neill, was just 18 when she met Chaplin, who was in his 50s. The age difference shocked many, and their connection raised eyebrows in social circles. Yet for Chaplin, Una was a breath of fresh air. Her youthful optimism and unpretentious warmth rekindled something in him that he thought he had lost. For Una, Chaplin's intellect and worldly experience provided a captivating world far removed from her own upbringing. The relationship blossomed quickly. Paulette, left behind, moved on to new projects and other relationships. But the break with Chaplin was bittersweet. She had given her best years to a partnership that was never fully acknowledged or secured. Chaplin and Una married in 1943, starting a family that would grow to include 8 children. Their union endured for more than 3 decades, with Una steadfastly supporting Chaplin through both triumphs and controversies, including his exile from the United States during the Red Scare. While Paulette Goddard continued her successful acting career and found happiness elsewhere, the love triangle left its mark on all involved. Chaplin's relationship with Una became his great solace, a rare story of stability amid the often tumultuous chapters of his life. It was a reminder that, even for Hollywood legends, happiness sometimes comes from the most unexpected sources, but not without heartbreak along the way. Rita Hayworth, Orson Welles, and Prince Ali Khan. Rita Hayworth, the dazzling star known as the Love Goddess, captivated audiences with her beauty and grace. Her partnership with Orson Welles, the maverick director behind Citizen Kane, was hailed as a meeting of creative equals. They married in 1943, surprising even their closest friends. In public, they sparkled, a golden couple of post-war Hollywood, blending glamour with intellect. But behind the scenes, their lives were far from idyllic. Orson Welles was driven by ambition, constantly absorbed in projects that took him around the world. His artistic genius was matched only by his inability to settle, and Rita, in need of reassurance and presence, often found herself alone. The distance between them grew, filled with missed opportunities and unspoken regrets. Hayworth, longing for companionship and a sense of belonging, was left vulnerable. It was during this lonely period that Prince Ali Khan entered her life. The son of a spiritual leader and an international playboy, Ali Khan's charm and sophistication swept Rita off her feet. Their meeting in the French Riviera was the beginning of a whirlwind romance that captivated the world's press. Both were technically married at the time, Hayworth to Welles, Khan to British aristocrat Joan Guinness, but neither allowed convention to halt their growing bond. Rita filed for divorce from Welles and married Ali Khan in a lavish ceremony in France. For a brief period, it seemed as if Hayworth had found her fairy tale, a palace in Europe, a life of elegance, and the promise of love. The couple welcomed a daughter, Princess Yasmin, and the world looked on with envy. Yet, the pressures of royal life, coupled with Ali Khan's notorious affairs, soon eroded the marriage. Hayworth struggled to adapt to the expectations of international society, feeling isolated and misunderstood. When Khan's infidelities became impossible to ignore, Rita chose her dignity over fairy tales and left, initiating a bitter and highly public divorce. Wells, for his part, maintained a fondness for Rita throughout his life, often describing her as the great love he could not keep. The triangle among Wells, Hayworth, and Khan was more than just a clash of passions. It was a story of longing, exile, and the search for belonging in a world where love and fame were often at odds. Hayworth's later years were marked by quiet dignity, but the scars of lost love never truly faded. Sophia Loren, Cary Grant, and Carlo Ponti. Sophia Loren, with her enchanting beauty and remarkable talent, was the embodiment of post-war Italian cinema. When she arrived in Hollywood in her early 20s, she already carried the air of a star, but it was her work on The Pride and the Passion that brought her into contact with Cary Grant, a man whose charisma and sophistication had made him a legend. Grant was over 30 years her senior and married to actress Betsy Drake. Loren, meanwhile, was romantically involved with Carlo Ponti, the Italian film producer who had discovered her as a teenager and played a pivotal role in launching her career. On the set, the chemistry between Grant and Loren was electric, so evident that it fueled endless rumors in the press. Grant, completely smitten, confessed his feelings and even proposed to Loren, suggesting he would leave everything behind if she would be with him. Loren was swept up in the moment, flattered and deeply moved by Grant's sincerity. Yet, despite his charm and the powerful draw she felt, she was torn. Her bond with Carlo Ponti was not just romantic. It was rooted in gratitude, loyalty, and shared dreams. Ponti had guided her through the early struggles of her career, and their partnership was one built on years of mutual support. As the film wrapped and the months passed, Loren found herself at a crossroads. Grant's world offered the excitement and comfort of Hollywood, but Ponti represented home, stability, and the promise of a future built on shared history. In her memoirs, Loren later described the agony of her decision, the sense that whatever choice she made would mean a deep loss. Ultimately, Loren chose to remain with Carlo Ponti, a decision that surprised many in Hollywood, but spoke volumes about her values and the depth of her commitment. Grant, heartbroken but gracious, respected her decision, and the two remained friends for life. Sophia and Carlo's marriage lasted for decades, and together they built not just a life, but a legacy in world cinema. The triangle between Loren, Grant, and Ponti never erupted into scandalous headlines or public fallout. Instead, it stood as a testament to the complexity of love, loyalty, and the bittersweet reality that sometimes, even the greatest passion must give way to deeper bonds. For Loren, it was a chapter that defined her not only as a star, but as a woman who chose her own path in a world of dazzling temptation. Which Hollywood triangle surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed these untold tales from Tinseltown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories from cinema's golden era. Your support helps keep Hollywood history alive, one love story at a time.